Hey all, Kevin here, and I have the Pixel 8 Pro. Holy shit, it's Tensor! Google Tensor, my beloved. Who doesn't love some off-the-shelf ARM cores with a Mali GPU combined with some Google AI magic? The whole idea for Tensor was coined in 2016 and then later introduced in 2021. This was one of the biggest breakthroughs for Android. Think about it. Google makes the software and now the hardware, and it's fantastic! The Pixel 6. It was buggy, the battery life was doomed, games ran poorly, and everything was generally terrible. Okay, maybe they weren't that bad, but most of these issues were software related anyway, so they would get fixed eventually over time. Except they didn't. The Pixel 6 actually got worse over time. I had friends who had the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, and the experience only got worse. It's actually kind of funny to see that the face of Android has literally fallen on their own faces when they tried to make their own phone. It's not like it's the first time they made a bad phone. I mean, look at the Pixel 3 XL, the Pixel 5, and the Pixel... Okay, I'll calm down. That was a bit of a joke. But you know what isn't a joke? The performance! And yeah, the phone's definitely not targeted towards that demographic anyways, and it left room for improvement for the Tensor G2 with the Pixel 7 series. So a year had passed and the stakes were high, and Google dropped the 7 series in October 2022. And this was actually pretty solid. In fact, I got one for myself. No, not just one, but two! Why? I guess I wanted two. It's not the first time I bought two of the same thing, but hey, I may not be that intelligent. But my experience with the Pixel 7 Pro is actually generally really good, ignoring the subpar battery life and questionable performance. Like, look at this game, it's not even running properly!
It's running at 20 frames.
And this became a recurring theme. Tensor was simply not a powerhouse. And a year goes on, the phone gets updates, game compatibility improves, and the battery life actually got better. And before I knew it, the Pixel 8 Pro had dropped. Wait a minute. Pixel 6? 7? 8? I'm 3 years old already? With solid foundations from the Pixel 7 series, my anticipation for the 8 Pro had me acting up. With improvements to build quality cameras, speakers, and display, it looked like a pretty good improvement from the Pixel 7 Pro. Oh, so you would think. But before we get into that, let's talk about the positives of the phone. I mean, look at this build quality. It's improved so much over the 7 series. No more hard edges, no more glossy back glass, no more weird hollowness. And this new frosted back glass feels really nice to rub. Like, really nice. What the... You know what else is nice? The display. I mean, who doesn't love looking at displays? This display is great. At 2400 nits, it's the brightest on the market. And how do I know? I read the specs! I even went outside to touch grass to test them out. And the Pixel wasn't lying. It was brighter. Okay, yeah, maybe you can't see the difference through the video, but I could always buy a... But everyone knows, seeing isn't believing, right? You gotta hear to believe. Did I get that right? The speakers on the Pixel 8 Pro are pro, and they sound pretty good with decent bass. Compared to the iPhone, which arguably has the best speaker on a phone, ignoring those gaming phones, the Pixel 8 Pro packs quite the punch. Take a listen for yourself. Yeah, the treble mids are kinda mid, but hey, at least it didn't sound like a tinny mess like whatever the hell this thing is, right? I would actually listen to these speakers recreationally, like in my room, on the train at max volume. You could always plug in a pair of headphones. Oh, wait. Displays and speakers are nice and all, but how could you even enjoy them without an operating system, let alone a phone? It's time for the processor. The Tensor G3 rocks a CPU with a whopping 9 cores. And in Geekbench 6, the phone scores 4,246 for multi-core and 1,741 for single-core. Comparing it to... oh god. It may look like every other processor here is faster than the Tensor G3, because they are. But it's not like the iPhone is 2 times faster than the Pixel. Of course, it's 1.82 times faster! Wait, does that mean I can swipe on TikTok 1.82 times faster? Swipe on Tinder 1.82 times faster? Smash that like and subscribe button 1.82 times faster? No! Because by that logic, just by looking at the numbers alone, anything from Android last year would be slow. Synthetic benchmarks just don't mean anything in the real world. Everyone knew the Xbox One was slower than the PS4, but it didn't make a real difference in the real world. And that's the thing, don't let anyone tell you that the Pixel 8 Pro is slow just because of its low benchmark scores. Its UI is probably the smoothest on Android. At a glance, the UI does more or less look like stock Android, because you're right, it pretty much is stock Android, with its only differences being its skin and its software to back its AI features. Oh, and this temperature app. The UI is smooth with pretty appealing animations, and the general design is pretty tasteful. Apps all loaded quite quickly as you'd expect from a flagship, and the phone was generally really responsive. So I hear you ask, how is Tensor bad then? Google doesn't market their phone as a powerhouse with 10 terabytes of RAM and a built-in RTX 6090, so shouldn't this be enough? Except this is normal usage, and if it weren't for the flagship status quo of the Pixel 8 Pro, it would be acceptable. Enter the GPU. Notoriously known for its poor performance in the Pixel series, even before the 6, Google has never really cared for the performance demographic. And as an avid gacha gamer myself who has quite the collection of anime girl JPEGs, I got a little excited when I heard that the Pixel 8 Pro might actually have an adequate GPU.
The latest Immortalis GPU with hardware ray tracing and variable rate shading.
Just imagine a Pixel gaming phone. Think about it. COD Mobile would run well, Genshin Impact wouldn't burn your hands, Honkai Star Rail would be no longer derailed, and world peace would be achieved! Except that didn't happen. Google decided to only use 7 cores, which got rid of the Immortalis mantra, and because of this, it was no longer a flagship GPU. My expectations lowered. And in 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Stress Test, the Pixel was yet again the slowest of the pack, only scoring 2,398 for its peak score and 1,685 for its lowest score. But hey, at least it didn't do whatever the hell Apple did here. These numbers aren't actually that bad, and it suggests that the Tensor could run games. In fact, the Tensor G3 sits between an 8 Gen 1 and 8 Plus Gen 1. So did it? To test this theory out, we opened up Genshin Impact and... oh my god!
Oh, you play Genshin Impact?
Oh yeah, I do. How could you tell? This isn't good. I knew that shaded cache was pretty bad in this game in particular, but this impacts the game. This hurts to look at. This terminates my will to live. Okay, yeah, I may have cherry-picked the footage because it was kind of funny. But even after caching the game, it still runs at obscenely low sub 30 FPS. Even closing the app left it running, which hilariously kicked me out when I tried to get comparison footage from the Z Fold 5, which remember is running the game at almost 1.5 times the resolution and is pretty much running 3 times faster. What's that I hear you say? Turn on game optimization? That does nothing. You could always lower the setting and have it look like a Roblox game, I guess, maybe? But what am I, low-spec gamer? This isn't even limited to games. In Adobe Lightroom, for example, the phone gets really hot and starts to chug. What about editing videos? No thanks. Yes, short bursty tasks are fine since you're still cooking with Steam, but the minute you push the SoC, it starts to throttle. And the already funky performance just gets worse. And that's where the slow narrative comes in. It's the power users. You don't have a fast CPU, you don't have a fast GPU, but you do have good cameras. And with that, Google has always marketed their phones for their cameras. Look, through the Pixel 3 to the 5, they use the same image sensor, yet packed quite a bunch. And it was no different through the 6 and the 7. Those cameras were excellent. In fact, I actually prefer the Pixel 7 Pro's camera over the S22 Ultra and even the S23 Ultra. So with its successor here, how does it stack up to other flagships? To test this, I brought out my whole team to do an in-depth camera comparison. And the results are in favor of the Pixel. For example, this photo of this bear thing here. We can clearly see that the Pixel has a superior rendition when compared to the other phones. I just don't know what Samsung did here. Generally, the colors of the Pixel are more true to life, and its image processing was less over-sharpened and looked more detailed than the other phones. Especially the ultra-wide, which in my opinion is probably the biggest upgrade here. It has the widest aperture and the largest sensor, and backed with night sight, the ultra-wide is simply unmatched. These improvements also reflect in the macro shots. The telephoto, though better than yesteryear's Pixel, does lose out to the iPhone in night mode. Though its minimum focus distance was generally better, but it's such a mixed bag I would call it a draw. Now, what's a camera comparison without the high megapixel photo mode? Going from left to right, we have the iPhone with 48 megapixels, the Pixel with a 50 megapixel, that's a mouthful, and the Samsung with 200 megapixels. Funnily enough, unlike the other photos, the Samsung actually has more detail this time. It's not over sharpened and it's not a mess. The iPhone has a little bit less detail and the Pixel tends to have better HDR here. And HDR? Let's have a look at this photo. We can see that the iPhone 15 Pro Max has the most contrast here, while the Pixel keeps it a bit balanced, and Samsung blows out all the colors. Google clearly put a focus on their cameras.
Bruh, focus really?
And it's not a surprise, this year the Pixel continued its lineage of excellent cameras. Wait, I forgot the video comparison? Oh no! Anyway, if you want my 2 cents, the Pixel's video is actually pretty good. The way it rendered foliage was really appetizing, and the general quality of the video was pretty good. Dare I say it, it looked better than the iPhone 15 Pro Max at times. I was floored. This was the first time that I was impressed by an Android phone's video quality. Let's not even get into Samsung's video. It's an over-sharpened, crusty mess. The only issue I have is the lens transitions. It's extremely jarring and rough, and unfortunately that's not the only problem. You see, the Pixel 8 Pro really loves to lean into its AI chops. And that's not unexpected by any means. It is a new standard to strap AI over everything. But I think they've overdone it this year. Filming people usually results in this weird AI relighting algorithm. It looks unnatural and uncanny, and you can even see it kicking in when it recognizes the face. Sure, I can't keep nagging about the cameras. They are pretty solid. I would even consider it over the iPhone for photography. It's just a shame that the Pixel 8 Pro isn't performant enough to meet the flagship standards. I mean, fair, the Pixel 8 Pro isn't as pricey as other flagship. It only costs $1,300. Mate, it's not 1,300. Wait, it's not 1,300?
It's 1,700, you buffoon.
It's 1,700?
Yes, you muppet.
You're lying! It's 1,700? Well, with all these problems I have with the Pixel, I'm starting to think, why don't I go ahead and work for Google and fix the problems?
So, why do you want to work at Google?
I use a Pixel!
Perfect, you're hired!
A few moments later.
So, how are you doing?
Look, I fixed it!
What have you done? We have a contract with Samsung!
All you need is Snapdragon!
No!
Battery life will go through the roof!
Kevin, we can only use Exynos!
This would be revolutionary!
You're fired!
Well, that didn't work out, but hey, at least I still have my Pixel, what the